First off, I want to give all condolences, prayers, sincere thoughts. I mean, everything that's positive and healing to the people, the parents, the community, friends, cousins of the people that were involved in Texas at Robb Elementary School. And, you know, it's really a loss for words, because people that were involved in this stuff, it's like, what do you say? It's like literally nothing to say. You know what I'm saying? To even try to console somebody, you know, from losing their child, you know, especially after dropping them off from school. You know, what happened is really like beyond a tragedy, you know, in my view, because it involves kids. You know, you're talking 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids that were, I'm sure, looking forward to that being the last week of school and getting ready for summer break. Personally, for me, it hits harder because, you know, I have kids. I have 4 kids, and my oldest son, you know, he's turning 7 in a couple of weeks, and I have 3 other kids that are 5 and under. And it's just even crazy to imagine such a nightmare of a situation and dealing with it. And it's just really maddening. Like, I made a post recently, maybe a few days ago or last week, about how watching the movie John Q is like a whole different vibe now with being a father than it did when I first watched it 20 years ago. Like, I'm literally sitting there looking at the movie now, wiping tears off my face and just mad as hell. Cause it's like they, you know, everybody did a phenomenal job in that movie. Shout out to the whole cast of John Q, you know, from Denzel to Eddie Griffin, all the cast of characters in there, man. Everybody did a great job, you know. But dealing with this situation here, there are 2 things I want to address about this whole Texas elementary school shooting. One being the police officers that were witness being outside the school even when the gunman entered the building. It was said that an officer engaged with the gunman but failed to stop him from entering the school. Like, how do you engage with someone that has that type of rifle and ammunition? Because this is not something that you just hide under your shirt, right? Like, whether he had a bag, a backpack, or whatever, the carrier gun, it just seems that should have been very suspicious and a call to alarm before casually letting a deranged looking 18-year-old into an elementary school. Also, one of the parents of the victim said he suggested running in with other onlookers because the police weren't doing anything. And let me at least give them credit on this as far as the police. In my line of work, we have annual training we have to do working with the government and stuff. And one of those trainings, it has to do with active shootings, like active shooting scenarios where they give information on how to conduct yourself if there so happen to be a random active shooter in the building. And so there are certain protocols law enforcement are trained to do during those moments. But the major difference is those are kids in that building, not grown adults. Those are teachers in there trained to educate, not trained to protect kids against a gunman with a rifle. At what point do you adapt to this particular hostile situation at hand and not just do what protocol suggests during a general active shooter situation? See, this is the problem we've seen when it comes to policemen over the years. Like, there's no consistency. Citizens that were way less incriminating have been killed in cold blood over less because an officer reacted on instinct and didn't follow all necessary procedures. But something like this shooting in Texas, where I believe it was clear that this dude that entered the school wasn't bringing the students cupcakes, was given the benefit of the doubt to go along with procedure and not react off instinct given the circumstances. Because the way they set up the scene is like the policemen were outside just waiting, and the dude been there for almost 45 minutes to an hour. And, you know, like I said, I get the protocol in giving those situations, but just like in those other situations, you know, where people react on instinct. Oh, I thought he could have did this or did that. Like, they're not thinking about procedures then because they're thinking about their own safety. They reacted off instinct. But when it comes to this situation and it involves other people potentially getting hurt, and maybe if you going in there, maybe getting killed or shot or something yourself, now you want to follow all the procedures and the protocols and not really react off instinct, especially when you're dealing with kids of that age, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids. Like, you would think the urgency would be greater off instinct instead of just waiting outside for God knows what. Like, it just seems overall from my experience and stories I've read over the years that too many police officers are looking out more for themselves than the people they're supposed to be protecting and serving. Like, it's literally what you signed up for, bro. Like, just like teachers nowadays, too many people are signing up for those type of professions with the wrong intentions and looking more out for self instead of being selfless. I think that whole situation needs to be investigated because it just looks and sounds foul on that part. Now, the second thing I wanted to quickly address is the obvious and the thing the majority of people are pointing to, which is stricter gun laws. Also, people are pointing to senators and politicians to blame for this because nothing has been done to add further background check for all firearm sales. It's funny and ironic that we use the most tragic and hostile situations and turn them into a political issue. Yes, there could be stricter gun laws, and instead of being able to buy a gun at 18 in Texas, how about making it 21 or 22 or something? But I ask this, how can we legislate hate? Okay, let's say these laws pass and we get, certain laws that everybody is cool with, and all right, and now officially legally harder to access these guns. But let's just say I have so much hate and violence in my heart. So now, because of that, I go take somebody else's gun, or I go get access to a gun from some other place, or I go learn to build my own bomb or explosive online, which has happened before, but extreme hate. My point is the extreme hate is always going to find a way to be destructive, but it makes us feel good to have people to blame or the people to point at so we can forget about the other forces that are out there leading the charge. Having stricter laws is good, and I would be for it, but at the end of the day, they're just band-aids on a gunshot wound, especially if that's the grand scheme and grand plan of it, and that's it. Like, this country is in dire need of a moral focus and turnaround. Like, just keep it a buck. Like, politicians and laws are branches on the tree, but it's not the root. Let me know what y'all think about this, and what do you see being the answer to these type of disasters?